Hello and welcome to SEO Conspiracies. Here again, Laurent, or Laurent in English, and Dixon.
And Dixon Jones.
And we're going to talk about backlinks versus internal links, right? That was the topic of the day, I think.
Inlinks versus backlinks, yeah. Okay.
A link is a link, but are they?
Is a link a link? So I guess the conspiracy is backlinks are more important than internal links. So for those who want the difference, a backlink, well, I define a backlink as a link from some other website into a web page, whereas an internal link is a link from a page on the same site into the site. And I think in many ways they're exactly the same thing. In many ways, they're very, very similar. But I think there are some notable differences, not necessarily by the link itself, but the way in which tools go out and measure these things. So the main backlink checking tools, Ahrefs, Majestic, Moz, they're the main three still, really, aren't they? Those tools are largely telling you about all the backlinks. But certainly, they also, Majestic, I can only speak for Majestic, really. Majestic also does all its calculations using the internal link structures as well. But it, for a long time, just reported the external backlinks. So people got hung up on the, getting backlinks from other websites, because backlinks from other websites increase the overall amount of power of the pages on your website collectively in some way, shape or form, whereas internal links just pass the existing power around. So without links into your website, it's hard for Google to discover the content and give credence to the pages that it sees. But once you've got to a certain level, you certainly can use those internal links to topically make each page narrower and more focused and more relevant. So I think both are very, very important. And
do you think it goes back to this whole war between net linkers and content? Like do you think it's about like all the, war, different vision between the offsite and...
I think that the interesting thing is that there's a lot of tools that will crawl all of your website and create some kind of map of your website. So things like Screaming Frog and those kind of tools.
Yeah, like this type of rendering.
Exactly. So there are tools that can do that, whereas there are tools that crawl the whole internet and then see where your website and your web pages fit into that map of the world. And those are two different perspectives. And it's kind of like saying, I'm in my village. Being influential in my village makes no difference to being influential in the world. If my village is not influential in the world, if there's no motorway to come into my village, then there's not going to be any people in my village, and it doesn't really matter what I do in my village because the rest of the world won't see it. I do use that analogy of a map quite a lot, actually, because the links within a website are important, but so are the links coming into the website from other places. They're different things, but in many ways they're measured as just a link.
I remember in 2013 I did my first talk about how to go. This is a blog, typical blog with all the tags, author, categories, blah blah, and this is what I call a topical mesh. So this is the first time I explained going from this to this. And my point was less is more. Let's do less links, but smarter. And the size of the bubble is important because here you see all little tiny dots. Well, here it's all spread out well. And because of the scripts, e-commerce, mega menus, and blog type CMS, because a blog is using dates to rank has no semantic value, right? To organize your content by date and by author and by I remember, and it was a public of mostly backlink people, and they were blown away because they were like, oh my God, yeah, a link is a link. And I thought it was underutilized, like the way the internal linking, because back then, what was it? You do what's called landing page. You optimize one page on a keyword. Usually you would link, that footer of the site with all those optimized landing pages. And then you blast links until that page ranks up. Well, what we're trying to do now, and what I introduced in 2013, was the idea that you can be smarter by saying, okay, because this page is connecting to this page, like a backlink. I mean, the old saying, build backlinks from websites close to yours or similar to yours from a topic point of view. And same on the site. Instead of doing all those random links, trying to be a little smarter in the way the pages are linked together. And it works. It does work.
I think one of the interesting things that seems to have got missed. It's a bit like we talk about topical page rank getting missed in the SEO psyche. Another thing that got missed was the reasonable surfer model. So, originally page rank meant that every link on the page was worth the same amount. You take a power of the page and divide it by the number of links on the page less a dampening factor, and somewhere in the model, Google had this reasonable surfer. So the way that I interpret the reasonable surfer is that, let's say you've got, a page rank value of 10. No, let's call it 7.55. There's a dampening factor of 7.35. And then that gets divided out. But instead of getting it divided out equally, different links were going to have a different value. And it makes sense to say, hold on, links that are in the body text maybe are more influential because they're more editorial than ones in the navigation, which are the same for every single web page on the site, for example. Or the ones in the footer maybe are no longer need the same kind of relevance because the ones above the fold are the ones that people are going to click on. So there was something that went along in there which we mostly missed because we had no proper measurement tools to assign a value to a link on a page, and that's still true to an extent. But I think that now Majestic came out with a tool last year, which is link context, which divides the web page into 40 different sections. And that is
so many unknown tools on Majestic.
So clever. Honestly, the number of people that, because a lot of people are using another link tool now, and they don't know that this thing exists, and it just kicks the crap out of context. It's brilliant to be able to sit there and say, right, it's no longer about getting a link from a page that's about that. It's about getting a link from, that sentence has topic. There's a topic embedded in that sentence. There's an entity in that sentence. So you can have a page that's a little broader, but this sentence that's not about the main topic page, but it's talking about it and then citing your web page as the authority for users to go and read. That's a good link because that is showing the user on the other page that if they want more authoritative information on this subtopic of the page, they should come and see your website. Now that to me is a powerful link, but you could never spot those before. You could never spot those because all you could see was the links from, were coming from these pages. You couldn't even tell whether they're in the navigation or whether they're in the body context, leave alone whether they're surrounded by other links or words or stuff that was valuable.
Well, here's a pro tip because especially since the Penguin, it's strongly, you can do whatever you want, but I'm saying don't optimize your anchor text on the backlinks, right? On the other hand, within the website, you can totally optimize the anchor text.
You can get a lot away with a lot more. Yeah, I think that's true. True.
But for the backlinks, whatever comes before, what did you just say? Before and after the link.
Yeah,
it's not as powerful as the anchor text, but it's going to bring a lot more value to the link if it's surrounded with something more interesting.
And the reason that it does that is because those words before and after give it context. So in the I don't know if Google used the continuous bag of words algorithm anymore or not, but the continuous bag of words algorithm just went through the internet, taking each word and then measuring the number of times any two words were together on the internet, or every 3 words or every 4 words, and set up engrams of everything on the internet, so that you could see very quickly. Firstly, you could predict the next word, so it can be used in Google Suggests and stuff like that. But also, it started to cement ideas together, and it very quickly gives that link meaning. If you can see 2 or 3 words either side of that word, then the link then becomes anchored in some kind of meaning, which you can't do just by the anchor text alone.
Very important is also to understand that, like you said, they work together. But in theory, I mean, internal links with backlinks, obviously, whatever you do internally, as smart as you can be with your internal linking, if your website is weak from a backlink perspective, it's not going to work as well as opposed to a stronger website. But,
you're going to need links from other websites.
In theory, if we look up the PageRank formula, in a couple of seconds, we're going to give the list of all the algorithm, and there's probably like 4 or 5 that you can look up if you're interested in. You don't need to know all the algorithms used by Google. Just know the main ones, and it's enough. But it's very interesting to understand that the PageRank formula, if you upload a page, it's going to get a little bit of PageRank from the common pot of PageRank of the web just by giving birth to a page.
Just by existing,
So in theory, you don't need backlinks, and I've seen only one case where it was huge black hat scrappers, right? They were unclassified. They were scrapping all the classified from all over the world, and they were building humongous websites. Tens of millions of pages. They didn't know what a backlink was because they had millions and millions of pages, so the website was self-sufficient in PageRank. But that's a very unique case. For the rest of us, you need to be smart with your internal links, but if it's going to be more powerful with the right backlinks. But be smarter. Who is in relation to what and why is the most important, I think.
I think so. Yeah.
Even if
I don't know if we've got a couple more minutes on backlinks, but there's also, that model where you're creating millions and millions of web pages. I see it. I've got some presentations where I have this pyramid made out of Lego, and the power of a link from at the top of the pyramid is infinitely more than the power of the links from the stuff at the bottom, because there's just so much crap at the bottom of the internet. The rubbish that's there is so huge, and we don't see it generally because Google filters it out, Majestic filters it out. It doesn't get into the results, so you just don't know it's there. But I tell you what, when you've got a crawler that's going around just crawling stuff, if you can't make a logical decision on what to crawl next, then you're just going to go into a rabbit hole of rubbish. So you need, if nothing else, PageRank or some other metric like citation flow is going to be needed for any crawler, because otherwise you just crawl crap the whole time.
And there's a lot of it,
yeah.
The issues, because from an SEO perspective, you see the first step. Google is discovering a URL, and you see the last part, which is this URL is displayed in an interface like the search result page, right? You see the beginning and the end, but in between it's not because it discovered the URL that it decides to crawl it, to index it, and so on and so on. And the PageRank, no. So if you want to get a little more into this algorithmic vision of SEO, PageRank formula, topical or topic sensitive PageRank, ngram, TF-EDF, Salton cosinus, reasonable surfer.
I'd say ignore TF-IDF and latent semantic indexing. Those two, I think we don't need to. That's my personal opinion, but I think we've moved on.
Ngram,
they're all interesting.
Name entities, but what I'm saying is you have a gazillion scientific papers about many things, but if you focus on the main algorithms, already you're going to get a sense of how does a search engine needs to work to be able to do the job that it does. So what makes Google difficult is that beyond those basic algorithms, you got thousands of other ones. I don't know. Maybe I'm going to take a note of those 200 signals thing.
Are you going to record them all below? So I think that the important ones, well, for me now, apart from any backlink ones, but NLP, so natural language processing algorithms are pretty interesting. So programs that look over content and then break them down into named entity recognition algorithms. So try to break that content into named entities, and some of them are breaking them into pairs and relationships between them as well. I think that's where the future is right now, and I think that it's where InLinks is betting its future anyway. I think we have a very powerful natural language processing algorithm that can identify entities much better than Google's NLP, which is available as an API. You can go and play with it. If you go to the Google NLP API, you can cut and paste text and see what entities are there. But people don't necessarily understand the output that's coming out of that. But what we do understand is that the named entities that are coming out of that API versus the named entities that we see on a web page, we see a lot more. So therefore, we can see where an SEO needs to make up the difference, and that's kind of where InLinks has kind of gone, which kind of got off internal linking really. But once we know those
InLinks is about
we can then internally link the ideas together. So you can say, right, this is the page that I want to be number one for named entity here. Anytime I mention these ones, we probably should link to the named entity of that page, and so it builds that on the fly. So yeah, that's what it does.
In my opinion, a tool like InLinks is even went way beyond what is really required from a basic point of view, just for one single reason, is because in SEO you don't need to be excellent, you don't need to be the best, you just need to be a little better or not as bad as the guys in front of you on the keyword. And those guys in front of you are not that good, they're just good at backlinks, right? And the new perspective of being good at within the site is very unique, and that's the way to go. And again, it does work. It's not something that came out of our head, and it's just not just a short win trick shortcut.
Mr. Borelli, do I have to pay for this particular episode? I've got to sponsor this episode now. You've been very kind.
Well, that's also the beauty of SEO, because we're on the same. We're not. We are competing a little bit, but
but we have
who cares? Different bars,
things.
different ambiance,
Maybe
maybe some people like your tool better than mine. It doesn't matter to there's plenty for everyone.
Yeah, and I think we learn off of each other, and that's the importance of doing things like this as well. We get those perspectives out there, and we need to have multiple perspectives and multiple approaches to get the job done.
Yeah, and to end up this thing about less is more. Do less, but smarter. That's all there is to it.
Okay.
All right, thank you, Dixon.
What are we on next time?
Oh, next time we are gonna talk about a good one. Is Google Ads beneficial for SEO? Should I buy some AdWords?
Does paid search influence organic search? Okay, great.
All right, see you.
Bye.